Phiếu hiện tại là của ông Trump là 216, còn của bà Harris là 193 nha mấy anh chị.
Bernie Moreno, the winner in the U.S. Senate seat in Ohio. This is a major pickoff for an incumbent senator in Sherrod Brown that ran ads that said he was, at least working with former President Trump. He ran heavily on the issue of abortion and thought that they were going to make headway there. There were all kinds of polls, including the one we talked about earlier, that
270 là thắng, mà ông Trump được 216.
Deb Fisher in Nebraska, we're still watching that race very closely. But if they hold all of those, you could have a scenario where you're looking at 52-48, 53-47.
You absolutely could. And it's worth pointing out that these Senate candidates, if you hear from Columbia, and he talks about the American dream, about immigrating here, and it raises questions about how immigrants feel. A couple of small towns, one in Ohio and one in Indiana, that were completely... Ted Cruz was always going to win. It helped him win by a larger margin. Another point is, Sherrod Brown has been there forever. Incumbents usually win. But this past 4 years has seen a remarkable amount of incumbents all around the world up that she would change, and I think people are reacting to that. And once again, you have a state like Ohio where Sherrod Brown was able to hang on, even though it has been basically a red state for quite some time. Yep. And sometimes the migration of this kind of party move in a state takes a little while, takes a couple cycles.
Surprised by this one?
That Sherrod Brown, there were a lot of Democrats who thought like you thought, that the way you posited the question, that he's held on for a long time, he's running tough races, and that he had appealed to enough Republicans over the many years. But Moreno was a great candidate for them. He hung in there, and what it goes to show also is this issue of energy security. It's going to be interesting to see how this continues to play out in Pennsylvania this evening. Ohio and Pennsylvania can begin to see that where that crack could come, if not a whole collapse.
Let me make one last point. $161 million spent on the Bernie Moreno race by the Senate Leadership Fund. McConnell's basically the PAC to keep the Senate majority, $161 million.
And in part, that's because they understand if we have one more of these things flip, think about what that does to the Supreme Court and the decisions that will be made by some of the justices
and
there.
We're one seat away from a majority for the Republicans, and Republicans have been counting as if it were a done deal all along on Montana Senate, where there's very little vote in, which I think is really 6% in.
Yeah,
but
it seems like
he's down.
Just getting going a little bit there, right?
Yeah, 14 points. But I mean, that's in line with what has been the expectation.
But listen, if you look at Ohio, it's the similar issues to Mike Rogers in Michigan. And there's similar issues in Pennsylvania for Dave McCormick. We're going to take a quick break right here. The race to 270 slowly is in Harris in the Philadelphia area, the suburbs, the Bucks County areas in Pennsylvania. We also have an update from Wisconsin.
Indeed we do. Mike Tobin is standing by with an update. Now, this has really been the biggest problem area that we've seen, at least so far. We're waiting for a number of these cities, Mike, but give us an update on what's going on with the machines there and what you expect.
Well, we're hearing from more of the Wisconsin election officials, and they still want to push off the idea that this was a legitimate mistake, and they have recounted these 31,000 ballots, or retabulated these 31,000 ballots out of an abundance of caution. What you're looking at right now is one of the tabulation machines, and if you look at the back of the tabulation machine, you should be able to see some red stickers. Those red stickers are the seals. The seals were in place on these 13 machines. What was not engaged with the locking mechanisms on the doors there. The machines operated for hours. When a Republican observer noticed it, flagged that particular problem, the city and also the executive director of the Wisconsin Election Commission says that
Been done 5, 6, 7 o'clock in the morning with Republican observers going, yep, that's locked, that's properly sealed, locked, properly sealed. Why didn't they do that? Again, this has just been sloppy, and as the chairman of our party said, they've got one job to do, and they didn't do it very well.
Bây giờ ông Trump vẫn còn đang dẫn đầu nha mấy anh chị.
108,325 ballots. These are the mail-in ballots, drop-box ballots, and in-person absentee ballots. Some 80,000 of these ballots have now been counted, but the whole process has been delayed because 31,000 had to go through a second time. Guys, back to you.
Mike Tobin, thanks. Just an update from our own Chad Pergram talking to Democrats and Republicans about the House races as we are looking at the Senate and they're poised to take control if they hold the rest. The House is looking like it very well could flip to the Democrats. A couple of races, Vindman in Virginia. We're not calling that, but they're looking
for this state. It's a massive deal because it shows that people have had enough of this far left attitude on crime. And it's not just that proposition. You see it on some of the other ones, on rent control and raising the minimum wage. It's a really interesting shift. And if I may, Trace, the other big point for us here in California, you look at this change, this massive reconstruction of the Republican Party under Donald Trump's leadership and the Latino vote here in California, the largest group now. And this points to the future of the Republican Party, because actually, if you think about the Latino vote, how long have we been told that the Democrats benefit from the diversity of the nation and the future?
Đây mọi người đang đứng đợi chờ đợi của ông Trump thắng đó. Người ta đang đứng ở bên ngoài, người ta đợi kết quả đó. Mọi người đang chờ. Những người này là ủng hộ ông Trump á.
Because we talk about Proposition 36, and Kamala Harris was asked about Prop 36. She would not weigh in on this. She wouldn't say whether she voted for it or against it.
Họ đang chờ đợi cái kết quả.
This was one of many policies where she refused to provide a clear answer on where she stood. And you know, this strategy of avoidance, which we've seen repeatedly throughout this campaign from her, it was a gamble. She thought that because she was slipping in the campaign at the last minute and because she was running against Trump, that voters wouldn't notice or they wouldn't care.
Of the initiative of Prop 47. He thinks that there shouldn't be any changes. But this is a major problem. And I think we see this not just with this particular prop, but we've seen it with a lot of progressive prosecutors funded by George Soros, people like George Gascon, who people are fed up with. And that's why Nathan Hochman, who's running for District Attorney of Los Angeles County, is predicted to potentially win this one really big. I think the Democrats who've fashioned the idea that if you be soft on crime, then there's going to be criminal justice reform, when in fact there's been nothing but justice for the criminal.
It's going to win. It's probably going to win big, Jody Armour, but the governor of California is against it. He thinks it's just going to raise the number of people going to California prisons.
Yeah, well, the fact that Harris wouldn't answer the question about what she voted on this, a former prosecutor, she said, I'm the top cop. She, her bona fide.
Ông Trump được 246 rồi nha mấy anh chị, mà 270 là thắng đó nha. Mình còn 24 phiếu nữa là mình sẽ thắng. Thượng viện, hạ viện mình cũng hơn điểm, hơn ghế hết đó nha.
Speaking of Bitcoin, I'm also struck by just calling Pennsylvania here, Dana. Trump embraced Elon Musk in an enormous way. A lot of stories were written that said that he was going to blow it in Pennsylvania, that the people who were working on his outreach teams didn't know what they were doing. He's going to...
And he got a lot of criticism. I remember the $1 million giveaway for registered voters. But Selena Zito, who's somebody that we follow and we've had on the show many times, and she knows that area very well, she said the people of that region love somebody who is a big thinker, who wants to create jobs.
The number, of course, is 270. That's how many electoral votes are needed to clinch the U.S. presidency. Races centered on 7 battleground states, and in them are 93 votes that are toss-up. They're up for grabs, and they are more than enough to put either candidate over the top. And that will start to play out just minutes from now.
Georgia is the first battleground to close its polls. The Secretary of State there expects to have results tonight. The biggest prize of the night is arguably
software that we have here. Again, this is coming from our partners at Decision Desk headquarters. Shows former President Donald Trump garnering 247 electoral college votes. 10 of those are from Colorado, and we actually just saw more electoral college votes.
Mình còn 23 phiếu nữa là mình thắng nha.
Kamala Harris, the winner needs 270 electoral votes in order to declare victory for the president tonight. Now, we want to take a closer look at Colorado here. Nothing incredibly surprising about these results coming here tonight. Now, Vice President Kamala Harris did take the 10 electoral college votes from Colorado. We can also take a closer look here in El Paso County. As you can see, former President Donald Trump garnering more support in El Paso County. Not a huge surprise here. As we know, El Paso County is generally more Republican leaning. Now, we do.
Ông Trump còn có 3 phiếu nữa là ông thắng nha mấy anh chị. 270 mà ông được 267 rồi. Còn 3 phiếu nữa là ông thắng nha. Cố lên. Hồi hộp quá. Người dân người ta cũng đang đứng người ta chờ đợi đó.
Focus in and lean in on the African American vote a little bit more. And I think these are all questions that we'll have to discover once we look at these numbers and dig deeper into.
When it was clear that Joe Biden was leaving the ticket, we should have a mini primary. If nothing else, to like get some kind of vetting process. But he said that. He said he thought it would be helpful for your party.
And then they nullified it.
Yeah, they got themselves in a real pickle that they couldn't get themselves out of at that point. But I think that the Shapiro question, the Walz question, I think it's bigger than that. I think both with Biden and then with Kamala Harris's campaign, which granted was very truncated, but she did get like the most amazing media.
Còn 3 phiếu nữa là ông sẽ thắng.
But like I think this is a misunderstanding of where the electorate was. These blue states are going much redder than they were. Blue areas are going much redder than they were. Blue constituencies are going redder. I mean, these are larger problems than just Shapiro, although Shapiro is a competent and popular governor who could be the person who addresses that.
All right, so in terms of problems, let me point out another problem for Kamala Harris, and it's here in the Silver State of Nevada. You've got two big counties. You got Washoe County, which is going red. And first of all, let's take a look at Washoe County and compare it to where it was in 2020. All right, so Donald Trump is marginally ahead of Kamala Harris. Here's where it was last election. 4-point spread between Joe Biden and Donald Trump. Donald Trump leads Kamala Harris this year with 69% of the vote counted by 0.2%. The other big county, and this is the one that's for all the money here, is there we are, Clark County.
Ông Trump còn có 3 phiếu nữa là ông sẽ thắng nha. 270 mà ông 267 rồi.
It's 12,000 votes. Compare that to 2020, when it was 53-44 for Joe Biden, and then compare it to 2016, when it was 52-41. There we go, 52-41 for Hillary Clinton. I mean, she is so underperforming right now in Clark County that you've got to wonder, are there the votes left to do it? Even though, you know, there's 80% of the vote that's counted. Are there enough votes for her to...
Hillary? Is that what you said, or was she just underperforming Biden?
She's underperforming Hillary.
Also.
Like, oh, here, let me just go back.
She's going to lose the state. That's 6 votes, wherever they land. I mean,
let me just go back just so that we can clarify this. All right, so we got Clark County, 2016. Here's Hillary Clinton, 52.4 to 41. She's 50.2 to 48.
Trump is way overperforming.
Yeah. Well, I think that the mechanics of Clark County actually matter in this moment, and we were talking about it earlier in the program. Clark County, the Democratic turnout machine in Clark County are the colony.
Yeah, that's true. It's something we can all agree on. Okay, let's go to Alex Hoff. She's on the ground in Pennsylvania. Of course, a major flip back and pick up for Trump. How are things there, Alex?
He narrowly won the state in 2016, narrowly lost it in 2020. And if you look back at 2016, what the Trump campaign tactic really was reaching out to people who felt left out. They felt that they had been cast away, that they had been taken for granted, and told those people there's a home for you on Team Trump. And this time around, he more specifically did that in minority groups, Hispanic voters, Black voters, Jewish voters here in Pennsylvania. All of those make up a very powerful was talking to Congressman Dan.
Okay, so we are now waiting for the man who was the 45th president, who will be the president-elect now, the 47th president, to speak there in Palm Beach, where he has been at Mar-a-Lago, now going over to the larger convention center or civic center.
It's probably going to take a long time, and Alaska still yet to be counted, but anything else that drops his way is just going to be gravy because
Ông Trump đã chiến thắng rồi nha mọi người.
277 electoral votes, more than enough to win the presidency. Why don't we go back to the panel, and Guy, why don't you start us off with how we got to where we are?
Ông Trump đã thắng rồi.
Absolutely extraordinary. No matter how you feel about this man, the comeback story it's surreal. I remember 8 years ago, the surreality of him winning the first time, which caught everyone by surprise. No one is caught by surprise this time. They knew what they had. They had beaten him last time out. He did what he did in the wake of losing that election, which turned off a lot of voters. But given the governance and the leadership of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris over these last 4 years, Donald Trump came back from all of that and made a case to the American people and said, are you better off now than you were when I was president? And the answer for the American people is no. And given the opportunity to put him back in that seat behind the Resolute desk in the Oval Office, the American people, probably in a more overwhelming way than they did in 2016, have decided to return him there to get another 4 years at this. And the history books will write about this man, this presidency, this moment, this era for generations to come.
Wow, it is a tight one. Bree, what are you thinking?
This is a devastating day for Democrats. For a lot of Republicans who came out and said he was not the man that they wanted to represent him. For women across the
277 phiếu.
about their health and their rights. And despite whether you agree with her or not, the fact that we have now had 2 female presidential candidates, it's so close. And look, Kamala Harris didn't make this a race about gender. She didn't do what Hillary did. She didn't talk about the glass ceiling. The fact that 2 women have come so close and that the person to defeat them is Donald Trump. It's a big game, but I am scared about what he'll do in our foreign policy. I'm scared about his closeness with some of our enemies, including.
Ông Trump đã chiến thắng 277 phiếu.
I'm trying to be dramatic here. I'm a pretty middle of the road person, but this is Democrats are going to have a lot of soul searching to do over these next very long weeks and months, and we better do it as a party, and we better do it fast.
So, one of the big questions is, should she have been anointed, or should there have been a process to replace Joe Biden, Richard?
Well, a couple of things. One, I do think this is a devastating day for Democrats, and congratulations to President-elect Donald Trump. I do want to take a moment to tip my hat, though, to Vice President Kamala Harris. Vice President Kamala Harris, one, has come a long way. Born from the child of 2 immigrants to this country who went to law school while working, graduated from Howard University, worked her way up to then become Vice President of the United States, running.
Will be able to sense it, but millions of Christians, millions of Jews across this country.
Ông Trump đã thắng rồi.
Because Donald Trump has been reelected the President of the United States.
God absolutely had a plan for President Trump, and I do agree with you that he spared his life on that day so that President Trump could become the president once again to carry out God's will for this country, for the United States, and for freedom across the
Đây,
world.
cái số này là cái số thắng mà ông đã được 277 luôn nha mấy anh chị.
In the entire world, no one else has our constitution. No one else has a document that limits the government. The way God intended us to live was free. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness are God-given rights to the citizens of the United States of America, and of course, across the world, that's what God intends as well. But we're the only country that has fought tooth and nail. Our founding fathers created this country specifically with all these measures in place so that Americans could live free.
Right.
And that's why I believe that Trump had to become president in this moment to save our great country so it wouldn't fall to tyranny and it wouldn't fall to the globalists and it wouldn't fall to that radical agenda that we were already going down the path with the Biden-Harris administration.
And the Democrats try to do, and the media try to do something so slick and sinister. They try to flip every single thing that they've done to him, claiming that they did something that he wanted to do to them. Talking about the weaponization of government, going after their enemies. Well, what have they done for 4 years? They've gone after him with lawfare after lawfare, BS indictments, BS charges, concocted felonies that should have never existed. They made a mockery out of our judicial system. Our Supreme Court had to knock them down. Good judges here in the state of Florida had to knock them down. They tried to get him on document cases. Meanwhile, Joe Biden had documents all the way from the Senate in his garage. They tried to get him on case after case after case, and nothing stood in his way because he stood firm. He didn't allow the media to knock him down. He didn't allow the Democrats to knock him down. No narrative got in the way. He fought fire with fire, and he's better off because of it. We're all better off because of it. And you gotta mention the family.
Ông Trump đã thắng rồi nha mọi người. Cái video của em tới đây xin tạm dừng. Hẹn gặp lại mấy anh chị vào cái video kế tiếp nha. Bye bye mấy anh chị.